Right on the top of Newsroom tonight, we will get you the results of the Mood of the Nation opinion poll. Remember, this is the most definitive barometer of which way the political winds are blowing in the country at this time. What would happen if elections are held today? We'll try and answer some of those questions. Let me take you through first the methodology that's been used by the Cicero pollsters to conduct this poll for India Today. This poll has been conducted across 240 parliamentary constituencies. There are a total of 526 polling stations which have been surveyed. The total sample size is 11,820. This is a face-to-face poll. It's not a telephonic poll, it's a face-to-face poll which was conducted between the 24th of July and the 5th of August 2015. To help us break down and analyze the results of the India Today Mood of the Nation opinion poll, I'm joined now by three crack political analysts, starting with India Today's editorial director, Raj Chingappa, Rajdeep Sardesai and Kanchan Gupta. Welcome. We'll, over the next 15 minutes, take up the 15 biggest takeaways to try and break down the Mood of the Nation opinion poll for our viewers, starting with the recent spate of scandals. Vyapam in Madhya Pradesh, Vasundhara Raje, Lalit Modi in Rajasthan and Sushma and Lalit Modi in Delhi. Have they dented the image of the Modi Sarkar? Let's see what the respondents say. 54% of the respondents, Raj, say that these scams have impacted the Prime Minister's own image and the image of his government.
It's clearly showing that the public has zero tolerance for corruption. And that's something Modi needs to watch out for.
Okay, let's take the second question. Was the decision to help Lalit Modi correct? Let's see what the responses are. 44% of the respondents, Rajdeep, say that the decision to help Lalit Modi was incorrect. Clearly, morally on this point, the BJP coming out looking very weak.
And not surprising, because let's be clear, I think the manner in which the entire controversy has unfolded, it's very clear that the public perception out there is dal mein kuch kala hai. I mean, that's how the public sees it. Now, you could go into the niceties, whether Sushma Swaraj was actually only requesting the British authorities, and it was left to the British authorities to decide whether Lalit Modi should be given a passport or not. The fact is, at the end of the day, the impression that has gone on is that the government has something to hide. And I think that is something that the government has to worry, that if you're not transparent, then you are giving the opposition and the public a sense that you have something to hide.
Okay, let's take the next question. Was the resignation of any of these three leaders required? We asked people to rank Sushma Swaraj, Vasundhara Raje and Shivraj Singh Chauhan on this question. The maximum number of respondents, Kanchan Gupta, said that Sushma Swaraj should have resigned. 46% of the Mood of the Nation respondents feel that the BJP did the wrong thing by allowing Sushma to continue. That's a big number.
You see, you have to see it in the context of the expectations from Mr. Modi. The way he had hyped up his plank against corruption and corruption in high places. So immediately, as Rajdeep said, that the perception that gains ground is that this government has fumbled and fumbled very badly. Should the government have asked for a resignation? I'm not too sure, because just a resignation by itself doesn't help. So what has to be done is that there's a major, it's not really a course correction, but you really have to do some sort of persona correction. You have to get back the sheen that definitely has been dulled by this entire Lalit Modi affair.
Okay, let's take the Prime Minister's performance. How satisfied are voters with the work of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? On this, Raj, Prime Minister seems to have passed with about 57% thinking he's either good or excellent, which is fair marks, you think, 15 months into his government?
Yeah, I think it's, for him personally, it's very good. But I think what is coming through with the earlier question that is there, that Team Modi has really hurt him more than his own performance. I think that's what's coming through in this poll.
So you're saying that the captain is doing well, his team's not doing as well?
You can see that. And this is not something that, while it's good news for him, that his personal performance and popularity remains high, the worrying thing for him is that the perception that his government is not really doing that well, and you'll see it in the later questions as well, reiterated by this.
Okay, we asked people to judge the Prime Minister's working style. Do they think of him as democratic, dictatorial, hardworking? And the one thing even Modi's detractors can't seem to take away is that a majority of the people actually think that he's very hardworking.
He's a karma yogi. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's always been his strength. He is someone who is seen to work very long hours, 24/7. He's in Dubai in the night. Next morning, he's in Saharsa. I think that's always been his strength. And I think he's consciously played up to that. He's a 24/7 politician.
How does he do it, Kanchan Gupta? Where does he get the energy from? I was speaking to an MEA official, very senior, who was with the Prime Minister in Dubai. He said, I was knackered, we were hammered, we wanted a break. And the next morning, the Prime Minister was in Ara and Sarsa.
Yeah, that's been his USP. He keeps on pushing himself. And does he feel tired? I don't know. But he never gives the impression of being tired or feeling tired. He's always able to project a very bright and up image.
And Kanchan, the man has tremendous energy.
Yes, his energy levels are amazingly high.
Even more than some people who are virtually half his age.
No, and apparently he follows up everything. It's not that he just is all talk. He actually then monitors this very closely. He takes, suggestions from various aides. But when it comes to decision making, it's his decision. The buck stops with him. And I think that impression continues with the public, and that's why he has such a high rating.
We asked people to judge what they believed was the Prime Minister's single biggest achievement. And over here, Raj, improving India's international image. A lot of people say he's not focusing on India enough, he's traveling all the time. But people believe that really has been his biggest achievement. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, both. Good in the sense that his foreign jaunts, and he'd come under a lot of criticism from the opposition about it. People feel that it's actually improved India's standing wherever it is. And therefore, in some senses, it's justified this, recently went to the UAE and other places. So I think that's good. But where it hurts is that if people think that's his major achievement, let's not forget, in this country, the economy, jobs, and other issues matter more. So he should be scoring higher on that rather than just, improving relations with other countries.
The Prime Minister has spoken a lot about black money, but Kanchan Gupta, failure to bring back black money is perceived as the single biggest failure of the Modi government. You're talking about a big bill, but people believe that you're failing on this count.
Yeah, once again, Rahul, as on the corruption plank, this was linked to corruption. During the campaign, the issue of black money was hyped up to a level, and where he and others who were campaigning kept on saying, we'll get it back, we'll immediately get it back. And
now they say it's a jumla.
Well, I mean, that apart, I mean, the whole thing was that, again, the expectation was so high that this is something which is easily done, and Modi being Modi, he's going to do it in 24 hours, 72 hours, and it will be all settled. Accounts will be settled, and there shall be no black money ever. But it doesn't really in real life work out like that. And again, it's because of that
BJP can be accused of deceiving voters, in which case, in the campaign.
No, it's just that, you sort of made the issue so high profile that you pumped up expectations to a point where it is not deliverable. So then expectation, the whole thing is about expectation management. Now, if the government really has failed somewhere, it is in expectation management over the last 17 odd months.
The next question is particularly tricky, Rajdeep, for the Prime Minister, because we said, what is the Prime Minister's image? Is it pro-poor? Is it pro-rich? Is it as someone who works for everyone? And almost 1/3 of the respondents, Rajdeep, in this question think that the Prime Minister is pro-rich.
Look, I think at some level, this is going to be, along with expectation management, one of Mr. Modi's big problems. I think to revive the economy, you need to reach out to industry. At the same time, if you are seen to be too proximate to industry in a country like India, or the economy doesn't revive, jobs are not created, then that becomes a criticism of you, that you're spending too much time with industry. So I think Mr. Modi suffers from the problem that damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he goes out there, tries to reach out to investors, there will be the opposition who will say he spends too much time with investors, not enough time with farmers.
But he hasn't spent any time with farmers at all. When was the last time he spent a night at a farmer's hut, or he went and spent time with farmers? He hasn't done that, whereas he's been going and inaugurating hospitals for corporates, he's been spending time with them, but he hasn't spent the same amount of time in India. He's done it with the Kazakh farmers, but he hasn't done it with the Indian farmers.
And Rahul, it is beginning to hurt him. And if you look at his Independence Day speech, he must have mentioned the word Garib about 40 times.
Is the suit boot ki sarkar attack pinching Prime Minister Modi? Kanchan?
No, you see, that is of course there, but just taking off from where Rajdeep lets off, if the Prime Minister doesn't reach out to industry, to investors, who are the wealth creators, the job creators, then how does the benefits of an economic revival percolate down? First of all, how does an economic revival happen? And second, how do the benefits percolate down to those who need it?
And in fact, the irony is that if you speak to industry, they are the ones most angry with this Prime Minister. Whether it's the black money bill, whether it's the fact that they say we don't get access to the man. You know, it's industry who's actually angry because industry thought that this Prime Minister will, be there for them at all times. He's not going to be like the previous government. And yet today when you talk to industry, most of them are saying this Prime Minister is just not doing enough for us. So the survey says he's pro-rich, and you speak to industry and the industry says this Prime Minister is no different to UPA.
Damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he's,
And Rahul, interesting, if you go back to his first speech in Parliament, this was in response to his reply to the debate on the President's address. He kept on saying, "Ye garibon ki sarkar." From there on, it's not just the Independence Day speech. He's repeatedly mentioned or emphasized that his government is for the poor.
Attempted image corruption. We've spoken about the Prime Minister and the government. Let's for a moment focus on the opposition. We asked people about the kind of role that the opposition was playing, and over here, Raj, 48% feel that the opposition is being obstructionist and it isn't allowing the government to do the work that it was elected to.
Quite right. I mean, all of us feel that way. We felt, of course, they had a point when they wanted people like Sushma and Vasundhara and others to resign, but it needed debate. We saw that only on the last day. I mean, why didn't they come, if it was that they would finally yield, why didn't they do it right up front and listen to what they had to say? I think they would have scored far better. And let's discuss all these bills that are pending, the land bill, for instance, GST. Why are we wasting our time on one particular issue?
Okay, there's some very interesting questions about who is a possible alternative for Modi. But first I'll take the question of who is perceived as the most popular Chief Minister in India right now. And that, Rajdeep, seems to be a question where Arvind Kejriwal is more than double of his next Chief Minister. Kejriwal is at 21, Jayalalitha comes at 9, Mamata Banerjee and Akhilesh are at 7 and Nitish is at 5.
Look, this is the question I've never understood, because it is the most popular Chief Minister as perceived probably nationally and also by his own constituents.
No, but this is nationally.
Nationally, because Kejriwal benefits and suffers from what I call doorstep journalism. No other Chief Minister is on television as often as he is. No other Chief Minister is covered as extensively as he is, which is both his weakness and his strength. So in a survey like this, I think perceptions that across, if you go to Trivandrum, people know about Arvind Kejriwal and what he's up to because he's all the time on national TV. So I think it's a bit of that, and also the fact that he just scored such a big victory, 7-8 months ago, not too long ago. So there is a bit of a honeymoon effect that Mr. Kejriwal still benefits from. Having said that, I think this is the one factor that, Mr. Kejriwal could well turn around and tell his critics, look, I'm still popular.
No, but there's another question which again is very interesting. People were asked, who's the most honest politician in this country? Over here, earlier, Narendra Modi was way ahead of everyone else. Now it's almost neck and neck, Raj, between Kejriwal and Modi. Modi is at 19, the Delhi Chief Minister at 17. Does that possibly indicate that Kejriwal could potentially be emerging as a pan-India alternative to
No,
Modi?
I would look at it the other way. Mr. Modi is taking a beating on the fact that he didn't handle the issues of corruption properly, both perceptionally as well as in terms of real action. Apart from these three politicians, the BJP leaders that were in trouble, the black money issue, it's perceived that he hasn't really done much on that front.
But even when we ask people who, if not Modi, there as well, Arvind Kejriwal is actually ahead of Rahul Gandhi. He runs a small state, he's got a party with only 4 MPs, and yet people think that if there is an alternative
Rahul,
to Modi, it's Kejriwal.
if you were to do a time analysis of your channel, and you would just check out for how many minutes, hours, seconds, whatever, has Arvind Kejriwal been on your screen compared to Rahul Gandhi. For whatever he is worth, Rahul Gandhi is the vice president of a national party. So, what Rajdeep calls doorstep journalism I think it is also, I mean, that's a very polite way of putting, saying, you know, lazy journalism. You have so many regional leaders. How often do you have somebody from the ADMK talking on a national subject? And how often do you have somebody from AAP talking on
you're stating a reality, but the reality also is he's benefiting from this.
This warps perception momentarily. Ultimately, you know, as time passes, that starts, you know, there is an untangling that happens.
Can Kejriwal emerge as a national alternative? He's already bonding with Nitish Kumar, Mamata Banerjee is feeding him dinner. Can he by 2019 emerge as a VP Singh kind of character, as someone who can counter Modi?
Look, I think at the end of the day, Mr. Kejriwal first needs to consolidate himself in Delhi. I think he would be making a huge mistake if he thinks that by going to Bihar, campaigning there, by sort of emerging as some kind of a mascot for the third front, that's going to be his future. I think he's got to consolidate himself in Delhi, show that there is a Delhi model of governance. If he's able to show an effective Delhi model of governance, then I believe Arvind Kejriwal can emerge as a potential challenger, because Rahul Gandhi, all said and done, for all the fire, for all the strength that he has, as this survey shows, is still not really picking up. And therefore, there is a constituency out there which will perhaps look for an alternative to Mr. Modi at some stage. And whether that will be Mr. Kejriwal or whether that will be someone else, we don't know. But Kejriwal has to first prove himself, I believe, with a strong Delhi model of governance before he travels across the country.
I agree, because if you look at what happened when he went out to,
to Bangalore, to your city.
And the Lok Sabha election.
We've spoken about Modi, we've spoken about Kejriwal for a moment. Let's focus on Rahul Gandhi. How do people rate Rahul Gandhi's performance? And over here, Rajdeep, 42% think he's average, that's the bulk. 21% think he's failed. So the BJP would say Papu fail ho gaya.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Look, at the end of the day, if 63% are still not giving you a good or an excellent rating, or 62% are giving you poor and average, it reflects the fact that he still hasn't broken that barrier. People still do not treat Rahul Gandhi with the seriousness as a serious political figure, which he should be, having been now in politics for 11 years. He cannot anymore claim that he is still, in a sense, in some kind of a training, he's an intern. He's no longer an intern. He's the vice president of the Congress party. It's not working, even though, let's be clear, there's another question you talk about, revival of the Congress.
I'm coming to that next.
Does a bit better.
But Raj, you would have imagined that with his new aggressive avatar, where he's got his sleeves rolled up, going after the Modi government, people would have thought he's better than earlier. But no, 63% think he's either poor or average.
I think whatever he's been doing in the last couple of months has been good. But for it to start reflecting in polls like this, he has to be consistent. He cannot go off for 2 months abroad, have no explanations, then come back and make a song and dance about things. He really, as Rajdeep, has to show the leadership. Show that he's very clear with an agenda. He's just not a negative personality. That he's got a vision for the country that is different from what Mr. Modi has, which is caring for the farmers or whatever it is. Show that clearly. He's going to go up the polls.
Opinion, though, is very divided over whether Rahul Gandhi can revive the party. Kanchan Gupta, 44% say yes, but 41% say no. So it's 50-50 on whether Rahul can revive the party before 2019.
Yeah, that's because, you see, whenever you talk of the Congress, I mean, revival of the Congress, you always sort of link it to the first family of the Congress. I mean, nobody thinks in terms of an alternative leadership or another leader to come in and lead the Congress from the front. To that extent, whether, the question is, can he lead, you will either have a yes or a no. Now, but linked to that is how he is perceived as a leader leading from the front. I think where he is still missing out is that his advisors have convinced him that you really need to be stuck in the same old groove of what has been described as povertarian politics.
He's aggressive, but has he failed, as Raj says, Rajdeep, to lay out an agenda? What does he stand for?
He is practicing hit-and-run politics. There's an OROP agitation going on, he dives in. There's a farmers' agitation going on, he dives in. There's an FTII protest going on, he dives in. You've got to tell me what you stand for. Yes, there is a possibility that you claim to stand for a left-of-center pro-poor politics, which maybe in the long run is your core base that you believe can revive. But the fact is, I think India wants something more. India wants an aspirational India. It's one of the big ironies that Narendra Modi does much better among younger India than does Rahul Gandhi, who's 20 years younger than Narendra Modi. And I think that's the lesson. Rahul Gandhi needs to tell me more. You can't just say, I'm going to stand for net neutrality one day and believe that the young of India are going to flock around you. Okay. The young of India want jobs, not just net neutrality.
Last two questions, especially in the context of the NSA level dialogue this weekend. Pakistan policy of the Modi government is really important, and over here, surprisingly, despite the flip-flops, the contradictions, the U-turns, 47% think Modi is doing a good job on Pakistan.
Well, you know, let's be very clear that on the foreign policy front, Prime Minister Modi has delivered. Okay, the perception, whether he's gone to America, whether he's gone to this, he's got a very clear agenda that he's doing. On Pakistan, which is very sensitive, I mean, you know, there has been a flip-flop with the government, but he's held. And after UFA, there's a feeling that we have pinned Pakistan where we want them to be, which is answer those questions about tackling terror. And then we will talk. I think they're finally getting their perception right on this matter. They've floundered a while, but they've recovered, and I think that's reflecting on
last question, that's the question that people are never happy with, but most interested about. What happens if elections are held today? And here, what's deeply worrying, Rajdeep, for the BJP is that Cicero projects that Prime Minister Modi and his party will no longer have a full majority. Their tally crashing from 282 to 243.
They still are, 243, Rahul, is still better than any party has done since 1984. And since, of course, the BJP's own performance in 2014. Look, I wouldn't say they are crashing, but I think
40 seats in a year and a half is quite a big fall.
You know, remember they had this phenomenal strike rate. At 31% of the vote share, they got 288 seats because they focused on the 350 seats, mainly in Western and Northern India, and they had this remarkable strike rate. Now, somewhere that mismatch was going to unravel. You will never always, with 31% of the vote, get 288 seats. It's not going to happen again. So the BJP has to be worried to that extent, and particularly in states like UP.
No, but Kanchan, people would have been hoping that, and in the Manmohan Singh government we saw, in the immediate year and a half after the polls, they actually did better. So you tend to do better immediately after the polls, and incumbency takes a bit of time to catch up. Here you've crashed 40 seats in 15 months.
The UPA, it was a coalition government, and the Congress, despite having been given the biggest mandate, was still way behind the majority mark. And so their threshold was much lower and they could go up. But for the BJP, they can either hold or come down. And to go beyond that point, it would require a great deal of delivery. And I don't think this kind of a time frame, that kind of delivery can happen.
Final words, Rajdeep.
Look, I think there are wake-up calls for all sides. The Congress has to get rid of this kind of oppositional politics, which at times is seen as obstructionist, as we saw in the parliament session. That's not going to get you votes. And on the other hand, the BJP has to recognize that you're not going to ride forever on this 2014 wave. You're going to start having to manage expectations, and you cannot over-promise and under-deliver any longer. You will suffer a heavy price if you play that kind of politics.
Rajing up, a final word.
Well, I think Modi is still, the Prime Minister is still very popular, but Team Modi isn't. Team Modi has to deliver. I think this is, as Rajiv said earlier, they need to be worried that their majority, though it's in a poll, is being chipped away. They would have to come back very strongly on the programs they did, and the promises they made, whether on corruption, whether on delivering jobs, on the economy. If they don't do it, this slide could continue into the next poll.
All right, Raj Chingappa, Rajdeep Sardesai, Kanchan Gupta for joining us in the newsroom with your analysis. Thank you very much. Our pollsters are currently working on a Bihar poll, which we hope to have for you in a couple of weeks from now. Thank you. Thank you.